Episode 3, Episode 3, Episode 3, Episode 3, Episode 3. What's up guys, it's Joshy Boy now. Welcome back to the third video where we're going to talk about protecting cars, why I think it's important and how I do it. And just remember, you know what they say about protection, if it's not on, it's not on.
Shine on me, shine on me. I've been going out on my head, I've been away.
There's a few different things you can do to protect your cards. One being just putting them in a sleeve, which most people have seen, and that's as far as they normally go. Two, but for people that want to protect them a little bit more and keep them in tip-top quality, there's a few other options out there, and most of them are probably common sense, but I didn't know some of the things you could buy, and they're relatively cheap compared to the price of the cards you're probably going to be putting into them. So I think it's essential that people know the options out there and know about the things that could damage your cards that you might not have been aware of. So let's first start with some of the things that damage cards. So some of the basic things would be bending and tearing and scratches. So most people's cards that have been left in a shoebox or in just storage somewhere and not protected properly will have been damaged, unfortunately, through rubbing cards, make a big pile of cards in a box, rubbing and scratching the holofoil, or bumping in loose packaging when they roll around. It bends the edges, can tear the edges, and the cards can get that whitening or like scratch texture to them, and eventually they just get trash, and then they lose the value of the cards, especially in collecting sense. They lose the value, and it's just sad to see these old cards in bad condition. I mean, a lot of them are probably in terrible or just beyond repaired condition now. Other things would be humidity and heat. That was one thing I never really considered. If you have shelving somewhere, you've put cards on a shelf to display and there's direct sunlight coming through a window, that heat and the sunlight will fade the cards or damage them in other ways. So you need to make sure you're keeping them stored somewhere out of direct sunlight and cool and temperate conditions. I live in Australia and we have high humidity, and it tends to make cards that are unprotected bend. And I've got one here I'll show you down the other screen. Putting your cards in appropriate containers. I like airtight containers just because it keeps more of the elements out of the boxes and away from the cards. I'll show you one in a minute. Also making sure that they're stored together and flat, so they're not being bent or crushed. And when you're delivering or sending cards away, maybe you're selling them, buying them, make sure you're packaging them right, because nothing worse than buying some cards or receiving some cards or sending cards off that aren't packaged properly. Either you're receiving cards that are damaged unbeknownst by the mailman or in transit, or the person you sent them to receives them damaged, and then you have all that drama. It's just not worth it. So without further ado, I want to bring on this other camera and we'll keep discussing more of the topic. So like I was talking about before, this is a card that's been in some humidity. See how it's started to bend? And eventually that will cause tears. It will essentially bend so much that the materials will start to split apart, and you'll start to see some pretty bad signs of wear on it at that point. It's something a lot of people don't think about, and it creeps up on them. You'll just leave your cards in a box somewhere and you'll pull them out years or so later, and especially the holofoils are more prone to it. I think it's because they're a bit more tightly made compared to the non-holofoils. I think it's the extra material. It starts to get affected a bit more, and they start to flex. So it's a simple thing to avoid. You just need to put some protection over the cards and try and keep them out of the elements a bit more. And once they're in the top loaders, which I'll talk about in a minute, it'll actually stop them from being able to bend, which will hold them in that nice flat position. Other scratches, an example of a scratch card, and a particularly bad thing for Pokemon cards is the whitening around the edges. Get that to focus. You can see all this is a terrible card, terribly scratched up card, and unfortunately pretty damaged now, that I found in another collection that I purchased. So you can see all the scratches on the hull. That's just from rubbing on other cards and just wear and tear. It's obviously not been protected very well. Which is a shame because it's a holofoil from the base set, pretty rare card actually these days, but for whatever reason it was not looked after very well. Probably a kid who didn't think of it twice about what he was doing with it, but that's alright. still cool to look at. Yeah, so I've talked about some of the things that can damage cards. Let's talk quickly about what options there are out there. So I think from what I've personally used and seen, I think there's about 5 or 6 main different products you can use. Some of them in conjunction with each other. I think the more protective layers you put into the cards, the better the longer they'll last and the better condition they'll stay in. And it's pretty simple. They're pretty cheap to buy. I bought a bunch recently on eBay as a package deal, and it was at 30 Australian dollars, which is even smaller if it's in American or in pounds now, so Aussie dollars not doing too great. But yeah, first I'll talk about the number one, which is just the penny sleeve or plastic sleeve. Most cards you see people use, and all I do is these are the ones I use. I bought Ultra Pro card sleeves. I'm not endorsing Ultra Pro, but these are the ones I bought and used. They're PVC and acid free, they're clear, and they're very thin and smooth, and this just gives an extra layer of protection to stop them getting scratched, and it starts that airtight process that I like to talk about. And a little trick I like to do, which will make a bit more sense when I show you the top loaders next, is I like to put the cards in upside down, trying my best to avoid touching the cards a lot, just because you're still going to have grease on your hands and sweat and all those other things. I like to put them in upside down and tuck them right up to the top, push them all the way to the top, and that'll make more sense in a second when I show you the top loader. But yeah, the main thing is you put the card in, and it's just that first barrier between you and the cards, and they'll slide into the top loaders, and they'll be protected from scratches and some of the elements. And yeah, it's just a simple and effective way to protect a lot of cards quite easily and cheaply. Okay, so next is a top loader, which is the second layer of protection I like to use. So they're rigid, so this sleeve won't protect cards from bending. It's just to protect from scratches and some of the humidity and outside elements. But this is a bit stiffer, and it'll protect the card from flexing, like I was talking about earlier. If you get a card in a sleeve and then into one of these, it'll stop that card from bending, and it's going to seal up the card nearly, I'd say 90% from any contact with the air and humidity. I mean, there's no 100% guarantee until effectively you get a card graded and sealed in one of those grading cases or a sealed unit. But this is what I like to do with a lot of cards that I purchase that aren't graded. And yeah, I'll show you what I meant by the little trick I like to do with these now. So the reason I put this card in upside down is because this is where the entrance to the sleeve is, and instead of having it face up with the entrance to the rigid top loader, same again, I'll just quickly butt in there and show you that it's just a regular top loader from Ultra Pro. And like I said, I don't endorse these, but these work well for me. And when I say I don't endorse them, I'm not being sponsored, or I'm not trying to sell Ultra Pro to anyone. I'm just saying this is the ones I bought. I got a good deal on eBay for 100 of these, and 100 of these for like $30, which is pretty cheap for me, considering some of these cards are one single card's worth more than that anyway, and especially in good condition. And this one's a Shadowless Charmander. It's in good condition, so yeah, I want to protect it. So what I was talking about before was I don't want both entrances to be up, because that is allowing the air to go straight into both. Even though it's probably a small amount of air, I think why not put it upside down, and then the opening of this goes to the bottom of the loader. And now I like to be really careful when I put these cards in, so I don't want this edge to be scratching all the way up, so I try and just loosen it out a bit and just slowly work it in, and trying not to push out of this penny sleeve as I do it. So I like to grab the edges and just slowly push in, work it down, and then at the end I just push very carefully on the top, try and get the you can't really see there, but you can see the sleeve edge there. It's going all the way to the bottom. So now that card is sealed in as best as I possibly can into the top loader. Now it's not going to bend and flex it's going to have at least contact with humidity in the air I can possibly get for it, and it's got 2 layers of protection now, and it will just sit inside my third layer, which is what I think works pretty well, is a Tupperware container. And I have a couple of these, and see this little valve here? I can pump that and suck the air out of the container, and I know that's a bit overkill, but that's what I like to do to seal these cards inside 2 layers and a third, and then protect them in a dry and cool environment. I only do this for my really high-end cards because I have a lot, and it's not really worth spending all the money and time to put all those into this kind of packaging. But yeah, I keep the other ones in a shoebox. I can sort of pan across and show you guys that. I keep them, I like to sort them into sets. I won't bring the box over, actually, I'll just show you. I have them wrapped up in paper like this, and I just label it base set 2, common, uncommon, and I give a condition of the cards, and I try and store them like that inside a shoebox, which is then kept in a cool and dry environment as well, and that offers some protection. These cards are in good condition, and as I get more time and sleeves, I might put some of the better ones into these, but the older, more damaged cards, I'm not going to protect any more than that. But yeah, I've got a shoebox full of packs like this. I'm just sort of working through at the moment and trying to decide what to keep and what to either give away or sell, or work out what I'm going to do with them. But yeah, so some of the other options for protecting the cards are the binders you see. Now, I don't use any binders because I don't really like putting into that, and they offer good protection, and you can actually penny sleeve then bind the cards. I'll put some pictures up of different binders that I've seen other people use, and they have relative success in keeping them in good condition, and it's easy to flick through and look at your cards that way. And if that's the road you want to go down, it's very organized, and you can really nut out exactly what cards you want in there, and it's an easy way to display them. I like using the displays you can see down here for singles. I'll just bring it up so you can see there, just some packs that I haven't opened yet, and an old pack I have opened. You've probably seen it in every video now. I must be proud of it. Yeah, just display those, and people use shelving and lighting, and yeah, you can really get creative with how you protect the cards. Other things are you can get the 9-pocket sleeves and not in a binder. Some people call them team bags, or bags like this. Basically, it's just a bag. Instead of using a container like this, you might top load and sleeve up a cards and then store them in bags like this. And this is just to protect the packet. They've done that with these, and it's just another layer of protection to protect scratches on the top loaders themselves. That's just another top loader there, and you can see, I don't know if you can see, but this one's got a bit of taping on it. It's a bit old and scratched, and it can make your cards look scratched when they're not. So you might have this perfect good condition card inside a sleeve, inside the top loader, and the top loader's all scratched up from being scuffed up against other ones, and people look and go, oh, that card's scratched, but it's actually just this or the sleeve itself, and that's why you want, some people want that extra layer, so it's protecting the top loader. I know that sounds pedantic, but some people want to display them and they want just a crystal clear view straight through to the lovely card they've got underneath. And the final thing I'll mention is if you want to get cards graded. Now, I haven't done a lot of this, and I've got a graded card here. It's not by Beckett or by PSA. I got it as part of a random pack I bought online through eBay. It's by a company called MGA. I haven't even looked into them, but this is just an example of what they do. So they put it into a sealed unit. So there's no actual air inside that now. They seal it. They put it in a tamper-proof sealed unit, and then they put a sleeve, one of those packs, over the top to stop it from scratching. And this is just a promo Ente that I got. It's a 10. They scale 1 to 10. I'm not going to get into too much grading talk right now, just because that's not what this video is about. But essentially, MGA is not PSA obviously, or the most accepted graders. It might be here in Australia or somewhere else. I have a feeling it is. I need to research it more, but what I'm talking about is that they seal it up completely, and it's graded, and it can't move. They've locked it in place inside that packaging, so the edges can't shuffle around when it's being moved or packaged or taken out to look at. The edges aren't getting dented or dinged in, can't get scratched, and it won't get deteriorated or bent. And that's probably the top way you can get your cards preserved, is by getting them graded and then sealed in a unit like this. Quite difficult to store for most conventional things because how high they become. You basically need to find some cardboard boxing, I'd rate, that's the right size in width, and just stack them like that in there. Or I've seen Pelican cases, I've seen all kinds of high-end boxes that people buy to protect their most valuable cards, and I don't blame them. Some of the cards are worth a hell of a lot of money now, and yeah, that's my only graded card actually. I will get cards graded in the future. I'm of the opinion, if you're going to do it, especially when you're not in the States, wait until you have a big selection to do. It's going to cost quite a bit of money anyway, and only send in the cards that you self-assess that you're thinking you're going to get a 10 or a 9. I wouldn't bother anything below that, because if you're saying it's going to get an 8, it's probably going to get like a 5. Just because they're very strict, and from what I've read and seen, you're never really going to pick it. Sometimes you'll think it's like, this is the perfect card, and you get a 6. So I would don't waste your money unless you're very confident, and even then I'd still recommend getting some second opinions. Just put that away. I also use Tupperware containers like this. This is my base set box, my first edition, and some Shadowless and a few other cards that I really like in here, and I use that in conjunction with just those other things to keep them all secure. I actually normally stuff that with padding so they can't shake around. I will be getting a better box for them so that they can't move at all, and that's the idea, is to keep them still, sealed, and protected from the elements and from scratching and from damage from being shaken around or touching each other. And the only other thing I will mention while I'm talking about packaging and protecting cards, if you want to do this extra step, I think it's well worthwhile. I don't, because I haven't bought any of these yet, but some people put these tabs in, and it's just so you can pull them out easier. It's done on the outside, obviously not on the card, on the sleeve, so that you can push them in and pull them out easily without having to bend the top end and then reach in to grab them. I think that's a clever little idea. Obviously it takes away from the look of the cards, and if you really want to save on space and be a bit stingy like I am at the moment, I'm doubling up with 2 little penny sleeves and then one either side. I wouldn't really recommend that, because you're putting more pressure on when you're putting them in on both the cards, but for now I'm happy with what I'm doing there. And yeah, I just put that back and come back up here. So we've talked about a few different variants and what you can do to store the cards, and just showing an example of how I store my cards inside the sleeves, inside the top loaders, and then inside these boxes as well. If you learned something from today's video, or found something interesting, or want to add some more to what I've said, or some more opinions, I'd love to hear some feedback. Write in the comments and I'll get back to you. Like, I read everything that people send to me. I get private messages a little bit at the moment, just starting out, but yeah, I want to share more tips and things for collecting and looking after your cards. I'd love to see some people's displays. I've seen some awesome ones on Facebook and some of the pages and Instagram, how people are displaying cards and storing them. And yeah, I've got some interesting things coming up in the next videos, and I've got a little competition I want to run once I get everything set up, where I'll be giving away some old school Wizard of the Coast cards. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like if you like the video, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao for now.
I saw the city passing by my window. Was in the crowd, but I felt so